Hi, I'm Mark, this is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I'm going to bring you guys a review of a Honiture V8 Pro robot vacuum cleaner. Now this is a robot vacuum cleaner but also has a water tank and a mopping function built in. And in this video I'm going to go through everything you need to know about it and hopefully help you decide if it's a good product for you or not. And there are a lot of robot vacuum cleaners out there right now. And prices range from paying beyond £1,000 for one that empties itself and refills itself and fills up its own water and all that kind of stuff, right up to budget ones you can find on AliExpress for as little as £50. Although let's be honest, one for £50 is probably going to suck, and not in the way you want it to. The vacuum cleaner I'm reviewing today from Honiture retails at about £200. And this price point for one that also includes a water tank and mopping feature actually isn't too bad at all. Now, to start this video, I want to tell you guys that Honiture very kindly reached out and sent me this to review, but I did say to them I would make an honest review, and so that's what you're going to get in this video, and I've been using it for a couple of weeks and trying to put it through its paces. And let's dive straight into the review and start off with specification. So firstly, for suction power, this has an impressive 5000 PA suction power. Comparing this to other vacuum cleaners in the kind of price range, it's slightly more or about average. It has built-in laser navigation which helps it easily map your house. This also helps it to detect objects to avoid, and that front bumper means it won't do any damage to those if it does tap them. Now it has three modes. It has mop, vacuum and sweep. Although sweep really means that little brush just turns around and picks things up a bit ready for it to be vacuumed. So I'd class it really as part of a vacuum process. It also allows you to adjust the amount of water that comes out of the tank when it's on mopping mode. Alongside that, you can toggle it into a Y formation mopping mode to help it get extra coverage. And of course, if you don't want to mop, you don't have to fill it up and you can just remove the mopping pad. It also supports 4 different vacuum modes: quiet, standard, powerful and max. It also has a feature where it can detect carpet and adjust the suction accordingly to maximum when it is on carpet. And as with most vacuum cleaners, once it's done its initial map, you can set no-go zones. And this allows you to set no-go zones for everything, but also just for mopping. Although of course if you've got that mopping pad on the bottom, some water will still get through even though it's not releasing new water because that pad will be damp. You also have the option to choose which room is going to be mopped when you schedule it. If you've got a large house, it also supports the ability to go home and recharge in the middle of a cycle and then continue where it left off. One thing worth saying is that it connects to your home Wi-Fi using a 2.4 GHz network, and this is one of very few products I found where you do actually need to switch off your 5 GHz Wi-Fi in order for it to connect. That means if you think about picking this up, you are going to want to check if your router does support that. I'm also aware routers are very different, so that could just be my router, but I've not had issues with that before, and I use an Eero 6 Pro. For third-party support, it works with Amazon Alexa and Google Home. I don't use either of those, so I haven't tested that. And then you can control and set it up using the Honiture app. However, it's worth saying it's built on the kind of Tour protocol, which means you can just add it into the Tour or Smart Life app if you've got that already. This is pretty common amongst budget smart home devices. After setting it up initially in the Honiture app, I've actually just had it set up in the Tour app. This is because I've got other devices and it means one less app. This doesn't limit the functionality at all. Now because of the size of this robot, the dustbin and water tank are massive. And what I found is I've needed to empty the dustbin roughly once a week. In terms of that water tank, how much you're going to fill it up is going to depend on the size of your house. I suspect realistically though, if you mop once a week, you're going to need to refill it once a week. And then in terms of battery, Honiture say it can last for up to 3 hours, and in terms of sound, it's up to 50 decibels loud on that maximum setting. It's also worth saying, according to their Amazon listing, they recommend using this on solid floors, so not carpets. However, I've been using it for the last couple of weeks on a kind of low pile carpet with absolutely no issues at all, and it still does a great job. You're just going to want it on that maximum suction power all the time, and because it supports a carpet detection mode, this does suggest it has actually been designed to work on carpets as well. Of course, anything thick pile it is going to struggle with. And then finally we should talk about warranty and specs. So in the box you get a little leaflet that lets you extend your warranty for up to 2 years, which is brilliant. It also looks like spares are pretty readily available on Amazon as well. So let's talk about design. So this vacuum has a mostly black design with some white writing on the top and some red tints where the LiDAR sensor spins around and we remove the water and dust tank. In terms of its size, it's a pretty average size for a robot vacuum, but actually reasonably short at just under 10 centimeters. The mop attachment is also removable, so if you don't want to mop, you don't have to mop. This also means you can remove that mopping pad for washing as well. In a box you don't get any spares, which is a shame, but you do get a small tool for helping you clean the vacuum, plus some instructions. Alongside that you also get the dock, which is pretty small and black. Now the cable and plug are actually physically attached to this, which means if you were to damage the cable you would need a whole new dock. All in all, I think the design is pretty nice and it's really slim and just looks pretty modern. So let's talk about setup. So setting it up is as simple as plugging in the dock somewhere and then holding the power button on the vacuum for 3 seconds. You want to do this without it being attached to the dock. If you haven't got it already, you're going to want the Honiture, 𝐾𝐨 or Smart Life app, and you're going to want to hit the plus in the top right. You're then going to want to find the vacuum when it appears at the top or find it in the device list. This will talk you through the instructions of connecting it to your home Wi-Fi. Now, as I said earlier, I use an Eero 6 router and I had to switch off for 5 GHz in order to get this to connect to my home Wi-Fi. Once that's all done, you want to set it off to map your house, and that's pretty much it. Personally, I would recommend allowing it to do its first quick map around your house before you play around with any other settings and set schedules. The other thing worth saying is that if you do try and pair it with the 𝐾𝐨 or Smart Life app, you may need to hold both buttons on the device to put it into Wi-Fi pairing mode when you come to set it up. You'll then go into your Wi-Fi settings on your phone and connect directly to the device before returning to the 𝐾𝐨 app. This is slightly different from the Honiture setup. The other thing worth noting, which is why I personally think you should be using the 𝐾𝐨 or Smart Life app, is that because the 𝐾𝐨 app supports Siri shortcuts from scenes. That means for Apple users you can create a scene that does something like start your cleaning, and then you can trigger that with your voice or via your phone and Siri shortcuts. You can also then tie it into an automation in a Siri shortcut app. Adding it into the 𝐾𝐨 app additionally means for really advanced users you can also use it with the 𝐾𝐨 API. So let's go through the app, and the settings look the same whether you use the 𝐾𝐨 or Honiture app, so I'm going to talk about all the things you can do in it. So in the app you can click through into the vacuum and you'll see the map. You'll see the position of the vacuum, the battery level, a quick clean button, the option to edit the map or cleaning preferences, and buttons for more settings. This gives you a nice simple screen to see the status of a clean or even just to kick off a cleaning cycle. During the cycle you'll be able to see on the map where your vacuum is and where it's covered so far. Now clicking the little 4-box icon in the bottom right will take you into the settings. And there's a load of things here. So in schedules you can create multiple schedules. Here you can set times, days it's going to run, how often it repeats, things like suction level and water level, and then also the sweep frequency, so how many passes you want it to do. You can also set the cleaning position and which rooms you want it to actually clean. This means if you only wanted to mop certain rooms you could set that in the schedule. Of course you have to make sure the mopping plate is attached and water is filled up. You can also go into a room to manage and save maps. This is useful if you do want to move vacuum between floors in your house. The clean record will show you the history. Voice and volume lets you choose the language and volume of the device. The disturb switch lets you switch on a do not disturb mode. This means it won't make audible noises during time, although if it is cleaning, obviously you'll get the noise of a vacuum. The remote control mode lets you steer it manually using your phone. You can also see levels of consumables such as the brushes, filter, main brush and mop, and you can reset these as well if you change these. This is useful for knowing when you need to change these items. Then you can also turn on auto boost, which is where it switches to maximum suction if it detects carpet, and you can toggle on the continue cleaning at breakpoint setting, which is when if it runs out of battery it will recharge and then pick up where it left off. These settings and maps are all laid out really well, and setting no go zones and no mop zones are really easy to do on those maps. For example, I've got a corner where there's lots of cables and I don't want it to go anywhere near that, so I've just got that set as a no go zone, and it ignores it. So that's all the settings and all the things you might want to think about setting up. So let's talk about using it, which is what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And generally, when I haven't been trying to test it in other places around the house and testing all the features, I've just had it set up to run automatically 3 times a week. Now, I've been using it generally in the upstairs of my house where there's carpet because I've got a SwitchBot K10 Plus downstairs. Although I have took it downstairs to test out the mopping and other features. And what I found is that it maps pretty quickly, especially with that quick map mode, and actually even when hoovering it works its way around pretty quickly. It really accurately avoids the no-go areas you set on the map, and it can squeeze through tight gaps and gets itself out of trouble pretty nicely. It's also worth saying that it can handle small steps with no problem at all. And even if you've got like a bumpy runner on something like a sliding door wardrobe, it can still handle that. For the purpose of this video, I gave it the shaggy rug test. And what it decided to do for the part where the shaggy rug was turned up slightly was ignore it and think it was a wall, and then the other side it went across the top of it. Now the SwitchBot gets stuck on this and gives up. This didn't, it found its way off of it. It's worth saying it didn't vacuum it well, but it's not designed to vacuum deep pile carpets. The most important thing is that it didn't get stuck. I also tried throwing some semolina on the floor downstairs and some paper shreddings on the carpet upstairs, and it did a good job at cleaning both of those. Although it did take a couple of passes to get all the paper shreddings up upstairs. The cliff edge is also really good, and it gets pretty close to the edge of my stairs but doesn't fall down them. One thing worth noting is that if you do want to use this upstairs and downstairs, you are going to need to move the dock as well, because it relies on that in order to start off a map and get a frame of reference. If you just plonk it on a different level of your house, it will just run around aimlessly and not know what to do. One really cool thing, however, is that if you move the dock within your kind of mapped area and put it in a different position, it knows where it is when it comes out of the charging point and moves that dock on the map. And then thanks to the Tua app's ability to work with Siri shortcuts, you can create a scene that does some of the actions of a vacuum and add them into your shortcuts app. This means I can trigger it with my voice or phone quite easily. Now for advanced users using Homebridge, there's a question of whether it's going to end up in Apple's Home app at any point. Now Apple are going to be supporting robot vacuums from iOS 18, so it's going to largely depend on if Tua update their kind of Homebridge plugin or not. To be honest though, it doesn't really matter too much. And really, in using this, the various settings in the app are great for really automating it and tracking it and seeing what it's up to. If it gets stuck or something gets caught, it will also send you a notification. When it comes to mopping, this is something that also works pretty well, and those water level controls are really good. You can set those from closed to low, middle and high. And then the white formation option means that you will get better coverage when it's cleaning your house with the mopping pad. When the mopping pad's dirty, you can just detach it and pop it in the washing machine. The main downside is you don't really get a notification when the water is empty. The same goes for getting a notification when the dust is full. This means you are going to have to manually remember to refill and empty it. It does however have stats, as I said, for the consumables in the app, which is great to have. And of course it also shares other downsides with many other robot vacuum cleaners. So it can get caught up on loose things and suck things up that it shouldn't, and cables are a great example of this. But this vacuum is pretty persistent, so if it starts sucking up a cable and it can unplug it, it will just keep going and drag it around with it. I'm not really sure if this is a good thing or not, but it's just worth noting. This is why I've set up no-go zones where I know there are cables. But all in all, what is the verdict on this Honiture V8 Pro robot vacuum cleaner? And actually at a pretty affordable price, a nice slim design and a vacuum with plenty of suction power, I think this is pretty good value for money. I like that it's got the ability to cope with carpet, but also doesn't get stuck on kind of shaggy rugs. It means generally you can just leave it to do its thing and it doesn't get itself into trouble. Personally, I'd recommend adding it into the Tua app rather than the Honiture app, just because it gives you the option for Siri shortcuts as well and minimises the need for an extra app. You lose absolutely no functionality in doing that. And so to end this review, it's worth saying that if you are looking for a kind of budget-end robot vacuum cleaner, this is a really good one to consider. That mopping function is nice to have, the quality of the vacuum is really good with plenty of suction power, and I've not had any issues with it. My main criticism is I'd have liked to see some extra spares and accessories in the box, so it'd be nice to have a second mop pad and maybe a spare brush and filter. These aren't particularly expensive on Amazon, but it's always nice when extras come with it. I'd have also liked to see that dock come with a removable cable rather than a hardwired one. But in terms of the quality of this device, I can't fault it. If you guys have got any questions, do stick them below and I'll answer those for you. If you do want to pick one up, I've put a link below that will go to Amazon in whichever country you're in, and that is an affiliate link. So if you use that link, I'll get a very small cut of what you spend, whether you buy this vacuum or some toilet paper, and that just helps this channel out. This isn't my full-time job, I just make these videos when I think there's things that are going to help you guys out. Give this video a like because that'll help me out as well. Subscribe to this channel if you want to see more tech reviews, and I'll see you guys again soon.